Alrighty, good evening, Arkansas. This is Chief Forecaster Cameron,
And Derek here once again. First off, happy Easter to everybody out there around the natural state. Unfortunately, we are talking severe weather for Easter Sunday once again. Obviously, first and foremost, Easter does look to be the bigger day, but we don't want to overlook this evening as well, especially into the nighttime hours. We have seen a few tornadoes across parts of north and central Texas already this afternoon. We're not expecting that kind of activity here, but we could see a few robust storms into the late night hours, especially in areas that have already been hard hit in northwest Arkansas.
Definitely, guys. So before we get started here, we're going to wait just a few more minutes, let some folks come in. I do understand that it is Easter, so traffic on the page is a lot lower because a lot of people are doing stuff right now in terms of Easter planning and cooking and stuff like that. So we're going to kind of wait just a few more minutes, let some folks come in. If y'all could do us a big favor, hit that share button on Facebook, and I don't think you can do it on YouTube, but do it on Facebook because it gets this information out. Also, another thing is, when we have these severe weather Q&As, it's always important just to hold your questions for just a little bit. Let us go over all the information, and then we go from there. I will recommend that people watch this tonight because tomorrow it will be a situation that once we have storms going, we are going to be focusing on those storms. We had this problem with the last event, the 5-day stretch of severe weather. I'm going to make this crystal clear. We will not tolerate any disrespect towards our team, our moderator team, or anything like that. These Q&As are in place for a reason right now. Tomorrow, we're not going to be answering specific questions unless they're directly under a warning. You're rude to our moderator team, it's an instant block. That's just how it's going to be going forward. So what I would recommend is if you have family members, friends that are trying to figure out timing for tomorrow, tag them in this live stream. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible. We're probably going to be on here till probably about 8:30, Derek, to kind of answer questions and everything like that. So I'm just going to wait for a few more minutes, let some folks tune in. Hopefully y'all are having a good weekend. As well as, like Derek mentioned before, I really hate that we have severe weather on Easter. Arkansas, it's just been just an absolute nightmare for spring. You had the couple events in March, then you had the 5-day stretch of severe weather, and now you have another threat as we move into tomorrow. So, tonight into tomorrow. So,
and Cameron, we were talking about this as well. Unfortunately, this spring may be far from over.
Yeah.
Because looking at the upcoming pattern into May as well, we could actually extend the season potentially into May, maybe even June as well. Again, not unheard of for the state of Arkansas, but given a state that is very severe weather weary, we're almost at our season average for tornadoes already. Hopefully we start to see that decreasing trend and we get a quiet summer coming up. But we still got to get through at least, I would say, another 5 to 7 weeks before all is said and done here for severe weather season in Arkansas. But overall, though, we've had a pretty quiet couple of weeks across the state after that massive event that I missed out on. He still blames me for it because I did leave. But overall, though, the biggest thing is we are starting to see a shift, at least from northeastern Arkansas that has been extremely battered into parts of western Arkansas. Unfortunately, we're still seeing a shift somewhere within the state.
Yeah, so Zach, to answer your question, I was talking about the last event where we had that big stretch of severe weather. I was just kind of recapping for what has been just an absolute nightmare for spring so far for us here in Arkansas. And like Derek mentioned before, we've got more potentially tonight than your Easter Sunday, and then we're looking into May, etc. There could be even more coming up here. So it's been, like I mentioned before, we talked about this in our spring outlook as well, that it's been a very just chaotic spring for us here in Arkansas. So I think we've got a good amount of people here right now. We're going to go ahead and get started. As always, you can always rewind this live stream if you miss any information. And we're also going to have this on the page as well here. So looking at current radar right now here, as Derek mentioned before, we have some severe weather ongoing out here in North Texas. Actually, there's been a couple of confirmed tornadoes out here in North Texas so far along the Red River. This activity will move into western and northwestern Arkansas as we move into tonight and the first part of your Sunday morning here. Now, recall last night we had that tornado warning up there in northwestern Arkansas. This is why we're going to kind of hang around the main weather center tonight. We're going to keep an eye on that for our folks up there in northwestern Arkansas. Derek, if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yep. So, again, last night was a very, very odd situation where we were dealing with one or two storms that was interacting with a boundary. Unfortunately, dropped a tornado in the middle of Springdale. Very unusual, but it does happen. But that being said, as we go into the overnight hours tonight, this activity is going to move out of Texas, Oklahoma, into northwest Arkansas. Now, the question is going to be, how strong is it by the time it gets here?
Yeah.
That being said, there is at least a very low risk for severe weather overnight tonight, especially across parts of the Ouachita and the River Valley and the Ozark Mountains. But that being said, we have had rain most of the day across western Arkansas.
Yeah.
So hopefully, and looking at everything, it does look to be kind of a lower end compared to what we saw last night. However, that could also help to increase tomorrow's risk because we see lesser of a threat tonight.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, Derek, are you having issues with your graphics over there? That might be a user thing, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. You may have to refresh you may have to come out of Facebook and then rejoin in on Facebook if you're having those issues here. So the timing for tonight, we're going to get started with this probably around, I went 8 o'clock. I think 9 o'clock is going to be your best shot, especially for storms that are going to develop in east Oklahoma and into northwestern Arkansas. Then this is going to go from about 9 o'clock tonight to about 1 o'clock in the morning. This should come to an end roughly around the same time we had last night up there in northwestern Arkansas. So what the biggest thing I want to stress right now, go over those severe weather plans. Tomorrow is going to be a day that once warnings get started, that is going to be our primary focus. We're not going to be answering specific questions and stuff like that unless they are directly under the warning themselves. So tonight, go over the timing with your family and friends. Go over those severe weather plans just to be on the safe side here. But this is going to be your timing for western and northwestern Arkansas at this point.
This is for tonight,
correct,
not for tomorrow. This is for tonight.
Yeah.
So I want to stretch that. This is for tonight. But tomorrow's a whole different ball game.
I'll circle it up here. So this is going to be it right up here.
So again, tonight's threat is low. Main threat is going to be hail and damaging winds. However, we can't rule out the possibility of a tornado or two, especially along the Arkansas border. Once again, our border counties, places like Walter and Fort Smith, unfortunately, our folks in Springdale and Fayetteville, once again, I don't think, we're going to see near the potential that we had last night. But I think today's kind of that lull in between the two from last night and then tomorrow, because tomorrow's going to be afternoon, evening threat during the heat of the day, which obviously, as y'all know, we've dealt with several times this spring already, is where we're dealing with more of a robust situation than what we would be dealing with, say, in the overnight hours where we're dealing with one or two isolated storms. Tomorrow's going to be a day where we're going to have our photojournalist Jamie out and about, so it's going to be a day where we're going to have eyes on the ground and a full team ready to go for you, especially with it being Easter Sunday.
Yeah, and that's another thing I'm worried about is, especially for tonight, is a lot of people are not on social media right now for the right reasons because they're getting ready for tomorrow. Give those folks a heads up, because I don't want tomorrow being a situation where a lot of people start coming and saying, hey, we didn't know about the severe threat, stuff like that. That's why we're going live tonight, to kind of talk about it here, guys. So if you're wondering, I want to stress this as well. There's more to severe weather than just tornadoes. Okay, this is not a tornado. And if you're in that gray zone, that doesn't mean that you're going to get hit by a tornado. That does not mean that at all. Severe weather is damaging winds, it's hail, it's flooding, it's lightning. It's not just a tornado or a red polygon. Okay, so anybody in that area up there, northwestern Arkansas, I want to stress, this is not just for tornadoes. This is for damaging winds. This is for hail. This is for the thunderstorm potential. That's why it says statewide thunderstorm timing map. It's not just for tornadoes here. So my folks in northwest Arkansas tonight, similar to what happened last night, you're going to have several rounds of showers and thunderstorms up there, some of them which could be severe. The tornado threat, I want to stress right now, is non-zero, But it is not going to be everybody in that gray area is going to get hit by a tornado. It's not going to be that at all. But it will be a situation that we will have to watch a couple of storms up there that may get going along the boundary that may produce a tornado threat up there. Mm-hmm. I think damaging wind and hail will definitely be the bigger risk up there in northwestern Arkansas tonight. But I will say this as well, it's going to be loud storms as well. So a lot of folks that are going to go to sleep, getting ready for tomorrow, just don't be shocked if you wake up at 11 tonight or in the midnight hour or 1 o'clock in the morning to a lot of loud thunder and lightning and stuff like that here. So give those folks up there in northwest Arkansas a heads up as we move into tomorrow here. And before we get started, by the way, with tomorrow's timing, I do want to talk about this real fast, okay? So if there's a situation, especially tomorrow, because there's going to be a lot of outdoor activities going on. You have your Easter egg hunts, you have your church services and stuff like that. If you're a church administrator watching this right now, I would go ahead and have that severe weather safety plan in place just to be on the safe side here. So go ahead. Yeah.
So again, obviously, most of this should be after our church service, or but again, we live in the South. We're going to have Easter potlucks. We're going to have Easter egg hunts outdoors, all that stuff. The biggest thing is that for most of it is going to be dry during the day tomorrow, but those storms are going to form, and they're going to rapidly intensify, and they're going to become severe. So again, we preach this. I think by now we should be used to the saying, lowest level of your house. Put as many walls in between you and the outside as possible. And stay away from those exterior walls.
Yeah, and I was gonna say not just the houses as well, but the structures. Because you're gonna have people at other people's houses. You're gonna have people at church. I will say for a majority of 90% of Arkansas tomorrow, for those that have church activities and stuff like that, you should be good throughout the much of the morning. I will say Western Arkansas. I'm not sure. Do they have church services after lunch? I know some cases, some churches are different. Some of them have in the morning, some are in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. I will say Western Arkansas. We'll talk more about this in timing. We'll have to watch it around lunch.
You're in the South. You're gonna have potlucks tomorrow.
Potlucks and stuff like that. Yeah.
So you're in the South. You will have potlucks tomorrow. Especially if you're like me and some bad Baptist. You will have your potluck tomorrow.
Okay.
So especially you folks in West Arkansas, I would definitely be paying attention to that very closely.
Yep.
I know a lot of churches as the further east you go, and other communities will be having Easter egg hunt stuff for the kids. It's just kind of one of those days to keep an eye on the sky, per se, because especially as you go into the afternoon hours. As we continue to watch this unfold, because again, Cameron and I fully expect that this level 3 risk will be expanded as we get into the daytime hours tomorrow.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for my folks in northeast Arkansas, it could expand further east. We think it may stay just west of you because of the timing. But my folks in southwest Arkansas need to keep a close eye on this, because this could be coming south, especially for the wind.
Yeah.
Now, for our tornado threat, obviously, I know everybody's worried about that. We are very tornado weary across the state. Would not be shocked to see that increase as well, even further, especially across parts of northern and north central Arkansas, possibly down to I-40. Obviously, in our level 2 risk area, we are talking about damage winds and hail as well. Tornado that's a little bit lower here because you're going to be displaced from our main shear. But that being said, our low is tracking a little further south this afternoon than what was currently anticipated. So where that low tracks will be highly dependent upon what we see tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that low continues south. It's going to bring the risk area south, bring your shear south, therefore bring your damaging wind and tornado risk even further south than what it already is across the state. Now, my folks in East Arkansas and the level 1 risk, this is because it's going to be very, very late. It's going to be after maybe even after 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. Your system's going to be pulling away. Therefore, your risk is going to be very, very low. However, I want to stress this. Severe weather is still possible, even in level 1 risk, just not as more widespread as it would be further west.
Yeah, so I'm just going to tackle this comment from Christine. A lot of people across the state are exhausted from just dealing with the severe weather over and over and over and over and over again. And it will get to a point where people will start to become what's called this desensitized from the severe threat, because you have so many that pile up. We have to treat every single severe threat the same, folks. Okay, so especially tomorrow, you have situations where you have to put extra priority on severe weather in the spring, but you take it up another level when you start dealing with holidays. I'm very concerned. A lot of people right now, like I said, for the right reasons, are getting ready for Easter. They're not tuning into the live stream and stuff like that. Then tomorrow it's going to happen, and they're going to get caught off guard. So I need y'all to do me a big favor. It costs $0.00 to hit that share button. Get this information out, because there's going to be a lot of people tomorrow that are going to get caught off guard by severe weather, trying to plan outdoor stuff. You have your Easter egg hunts and stuff like that. Get this information out, folks, because tomorrow we're not going to be sitting here answering questions. Tomorrow is going to be a day that there's warnings going out. We're going to be talking about those warnings. So get this information out on the page, especially on Facebook, guys. If all you got to do is tag your family, tag your friends. All 75 counties have the potential of seeing severe weather tomorrow, especially my folks in northern Arkansas, where up there you guys have had severe weather over and over and over again. So please make sure that you're getting this information out here, guys. Okay, so
I really feel like we've been talking about North Arkansas a bunch this season. If you talk about even in the wintertime, that's where we deal with a lot of our snowfall this year as well. Now we're dealing with the severe threats up there as well. So again, it's just one of those things that we have to pay attention to every single event. Like Cameron said, treat every event as it is just as significant as the previous one.
Yeah.
This is just one of those years where we're seeing more severe weather in Arkansas, than they've seen out west. It's just one of those years.
Yeah. So for those that are wondering timing, we're going to go over the specific timing coming up here in just a second. But I'm breaking down the risk and stuff like that, because there's a lot of people that are trying to figure out, where the tornado risk is tomorrow, where's damaging wind risk and stuff like that. So timing for tomorrow is going to be after 2 p.m. starting in western Arkansas, and it's going to go until 12 o'clock tomorrow night going into your Monday morning. I will say this, my folks up here in North Arkansas, you are in that level 2. That's where that red area is. I would not be surprised if that risk were to get expanded further to the south and east as we get the newest updates from the Storm Prediction Center. Like I said, we'll talk more about that coming up here in just a little bit. But that's going to be your timing here. So much of Arkansas tomorrow, you have that tornado risk in place. Let's talk about your damaging wind risk as well, because your damaging wind risk is majority of everybody is the reason why you have that level 3 enhanced risk right now. You're going to deal with a supercell mode, and then you're going to be dealing with a line of storms that's going to push through. My folks up there, like I said, across the area for western Arkansas, North Arkansas, make sure that you have that severe weather safety plan ready to go. I don't want people getting caught off guard tomorrow. I understand it's Easter. We have a lot of plans going on right now across the state. A lot of people are going to be doing outdoor stuff. Do not get caught off guard by severe weather tomorrow. Here is the time to pay attention, especially tonight here, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip over, and I'm gonna leave this up. I'm going to clear this off. I'm going to leave this up. This is your timing for tomorrow. If there's ever a time to pay attention to our Q&As, it is right now. Keep in mind that these graphics are going to be on the page, but I'm worried right now because traffic's been so low on the page today that a lot of people are not paying attention to the weather. They've got other priorities going on. Let those folks know, guys. It is a very important situation. We wouldn't be stressing it if we didn't have a level 3 severe weather risk for tomorrow here. Go ahead.
So obviously, tomorrow's a day where, you need to pay a statewide risk. Obviously runs from about 2 p.m. to about midnight tomorrow. Would not be shocked is plus or minus a couple of hours, because that's how things work in the state, as y'all know. But again, obviously in our first risk area, in West Arkansas, we are talking the 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. time frame. 3 to 7 o'clock is where you need to be basically any time from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. is when you really need to be paying attention. Now, most of you in West Arkansas, especially along the border, will be getting out of your potlucks, out of all of your Easter festivities about this time. Be prepared for those rapidly changing weather conditions. I think the further west we go, the lesser your risk is going to be because of where our dry lines and all that stuff set up tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But that being said, we still need to be weather aware. As you get further east within this risk area, that is when your severe risk goes up exponentially, especially from I-40 and points north tomorrow. Yes, I know the River Valley, Ozark Mountains, etc. Is where we're going to be dealing with that possibility, especially basically anywhere. Little Rock, Hot Springs, Mount Ida, Mena points north tomorrow is where we're definitely going to have to be watching for that possibility of an increased risk of severe weather damage and winds, large hail, and the risk of tornadoes tomorrow. Now, Cameron, if you want to mention the level or the number 2 area, because that's the area we're going to be watching for that rapid change in the risk area as we go into tomorrow.
Yeah, so this area in particular in the zone 2 from Mountain Home, Batesville, Mountain View, Clinton, Conway, Cabot, Little Rock, Hot Springs, all the way down to El Dorado. This is going to be what we call the transition mode here, where you go from all supercells that will develop out in West Arkansas and it will start to congeal into a line. This is where your damage and wind threat will start to kind of really ramp up throughout the afternoon hours and evening hours tomorrow. A lot of people that have outdoor plans, I want to stress your timing is going to change a lot. Stay with us tonight and especially first thing tomorrow morning for any kind of new updates and everything like that. We're going to go with I will say from a 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. time frame from Mountain Home, Clinton, Little Rock, all the way down to Magnolia and the El Dorado area here. Like I said, this is just a call to action because there's a lot of people right now that are that are not watching this right now, etc. I want to stress this, okay? Get this information out. Even if they don't tune into the physical live stream, you make sure you share this live stream out here, guys, okay? Because I'm seeing that on Facebook right now that we're struggling to get people in and stuff like that right now. I get it. A lot of people like to wait and see when the storms actually fire. We don't want to do that tomorrow, folks, okay? We do not want to do that. But the timing for the zone 2 area is going to go from 5 p.m. tomorrow all the way to 11 o'clock tomorrow evening here. It's going to start from west, and then it's going to go to the eastern part of the state. And Derek, I can get 3 if you need me to, or you want to.
No, I mean, so so as we go into zone 3, Cameron, this is when we're going to be. This is where the possibility of northeastern Arkansas may see more severe weather potential than southeast Arkansas because our system will be pulling off towards the northeastern part of the country. So therefore, that means that we could be dealing with a little bit less of a severe threat in places like Crossett, Lake Village, Helena, DeWitt, places like that. But then places like Wynn, Jonesboro, Walnut Ridge, Blytheville, unfortunately, towns we have named over and over again this spring, could be dealing with a little more increased severe risk, if you will. But it's going to be highly dependent upon that timing. The later we get, the faster your system pulls away will determine exactly how severe we get up there. I think we will deal with much more damage and wind risk in northeast Arkansas compared to a tornado risk. However, some indications are that we could be dealing with a little bit more shear than what was currently originally anticipated. So therefore, we could be dealing with at least a localized area where we're going to have to watch up there in northeast Arkansas again. We do get updates starting late tonight from the Storm Prediction Center, that talks about our day 1 risk. That's when we're going to really be watching, and then we're obviously watching trends tomorrow to see the track of that low cam. That's where things are going to determine whether our folks in the northern part of Zone 3 or the southern part of Zone 3 will see more in the way of severe weather tomorrow.
Yeah, so the biggest thing right now here is I think we're at the point now that shows the timing here. I'm going to leave this up and we're going to answer some questions here. So this is from Touching Lives over on YouTube, the tornado risk. So it is important to focus on the tornado threat, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say that, some areas are going to have a higher threat than others because I think you can make an exception for North Arkansas. That may be the higher zone. But regardless if you're in the the low risk or the medium risk, it does not matter. You have a tornado threat, it's going to be there. You need to have you need to be weather aware tomorrow, especially with it being Easter. I don't want everybody just focusing straight on the tornado threat because not every single person is going to have a tornado threat tomorrow. A lot of people, I'd say 80% of Arkansas is going to be dealing with a wind threat and a hail threat, and I'm putting extra emphasis on it because it's Easter. I wouldn't be too terribly concerned because you can prepare for wind and hail more than you can for a tornado. I wouldn't be too worried about it if we didn't have a lot of people that are going to be outside, that are going to have Easter egg hunts, that are going to be doing all this stuff. And not only that, I see somebody, WrestleMania weekends going on, and you got all these activities going on this weekend. So a lot of people are going to be outside doing stuff, away from their phones a lot, away from the weather sources a lot, until that warning hits. So tomorrow is a day that, regardless of where you are, regardless of where you stand with the risk areas, it's important to be weather aware. And tomorrow is, just like I said, an extra emphasis on that because it's a holiday across the area here. So I have to be in Oxford tomorrow, Oxford, Mississippi tomorrow. Hopefully it holds out. I don't know what time you're leaving, Ruby, if you can get it done. If you have to leave, I would do it first thing in the morning.
The good thing about this risk is it's moving off into the Ohio Valley, instead of into places like Mississippi and Alabama that have been absolutely battered this year.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to pick a region of the country that has been battered, basically right along the Mississippi River into Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee have been absolutely battered all spring long so far.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, I'm going to talk about your comment too. This is not no disrespect to any news agencies or anything across the state. Regardless of how bad it's going to be tomorrow or anything like that, my concern is it's Easter.
Yeah.
And it's not just the severe storms I'm worried about; it's the regular thunderstorms, because you're having folks that are outside, that have outdoor plans, that are going to be either cooking outside, or they're going to have the kiddos involved and everything like that. That's why I'm putting extra emphasis on tomorrow, because it's Easter. But yeah, we're going to share everything. Either it's good news or it's bad news, because you guys have to. Yep. You have to know when severe weather's coming. You have to know when something's coming here in Arkansas. So yeah, that's why we're putting extra emphasis on tomorrow, because it's Easter across the area here. So Oxford, Arkansas, not Mississippi. Oxford, Arkansas. I didn't know there was an Oxford, Arkansas. Where is that actually?
North Arkansas, I think,
somewhere in there. I've heard that name before. Okay, I've always figured Oxford as because it's but that's a new one, Ruby. So I'm traveling from Eureka Springs to Damascus tomorrow from about 8 o'clock to 1. Jonathan, I think you're going to be good if you go off the time map here. I think you're going to be fine. This is mainly going to be during the afternoon and into the evening. If you got travel plans first thing tomorrow morning, etc., I think you're going to be good to go. I'm thinking about doing a live stream tomorrow morning. I don't know yet, because the problem is a lot of people are going to have church services. There's a lot of Easter egg hunts, stuff like that. A lot of people are not going to be tuning in tomorrow morning here. So if I don't do a live stream, it'll probably be like a quick video or something like that on the page. But just keep that in mind for tomorrow. And Elizabeth, you're good. I promise. It was no disrespect intended. I was just saying that from my end, because I didn't want anyone thinking I was being disrespectful to anyone else. It's just that's why we're putting extra emphasis on tomorrow. So Lisa, this is a really good question. Is this going to be a solid line coming through, or it's going to be various cells that are going to be moving through the area? Do you want to?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
All right. So basically, here's the biggest thing about tomorrow is unfortunately, similar to the last couple of days, we are going to see storms form. Obviously in Texas and Oklahoma ongoing right now. Mm-hmm. They're going to move into Arkansas. They are going to die off overnight, similar to what we saw today. Then what's going to happen is that it's going to leave a boundary in place.
Yep.
Where you have a dry line moving in, cold front behind it, intersecting with said boundary tomorrow. Storms will form on that boundary, supercell storms once again, and move east across the state. This is eerily similar to what we've dealt with 2 other times this year, unfortunately already. And as they move east, they will gradually form into a line. The question is going to be, when do they form into that line? As long as they remain separated, your tornado risk is higher.
Yeah.
Once they become a line, your wind risk goes up. So it's one of those situations where we're going to be dealing with both tomorrow.
So we got actually a good amount of good comments coming in. So I'm gonna start with this one from James. Thank you so much. It's Izard County. I I knew I heard that place before. So from Ryan, not the official Ryan Hall, but somebody with the same name. Do not be disappointed if you don't see a tornado tomorrow. You know, people get upset and all that. I'm not going to get on the soapbox about all that. It's just, I'm going to put it straightforward. If you get upset about not seeing severe weather, you need to get your priorities straight. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to leave it with that. Because we've had a very active spring here in Arkansas, and there's been a lot of lives changed and everything like that. So if you don't see severe weather, especially tomorrow, because somebody's going to get upset about that, you need to get your priorities straight. Now, I love that comment. Now, this one in particular, this one have a potential of being a dud. You know, what's funny about this, as active as Arkansas has been, there's only been one event that has busted. Out of all of the events that we've had here in Arkansas, there's only been one that did not live up to its potential here. And that says a lot here in Arkansas in terms of how busy we've been. So, obviously, there is that potential. That is how it always is with severe weather. You know, there could be a situation, cold front comes in. I saw that other comment. Cold front comes in, undercuts the storms. That produces a bust. You have too much cloud cover and rainfall tomorrow morning. Your atmosphere doesn't get destabilized enough. That could also lead to that. You know, there's always that chance that something could go wrong when you try to forecast severe weather. But I think, especially in North Arkansas and getting close to the southern Missouri area, I think that's where the highest potential is going to be as we move into tomorrow. But obviously, we have the entire state highlighted because you're not only including severe weather, but this is just thunderstorm activity because folks have outdoor plans as we move into tomorrow. Now, for northwestern Arkansas tonight, and I can back this up to this particular timing, we're going to go from, I would say, let's go 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning up there in northwestern Arkansas. There could be a few rogue cells that come out from Oklahoma, similar to what happened last night. I will say all hazards will be your primary threat. Damaging winds, hail. I can't rule out an isolated tornado or two, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. Everybody else, central, eastern, northeastern, and in southern Arkansas, there will be no severe threat for tonight. Let me make this clear because I hate these overrunning severe risks. For tonight through Sunday morning, your biggest risk is going to be in western, northwestern Arkansas. This becomes a statewide issue tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow evening. So I'm going to make this clear. For tonight into Sunday morning, from Fort Smith, Fayetteville, Jasper, Harrison, Mount Holm, that's where that area is going to be. Everybody else should be good to go until later on tomorrow and into tomorrow evening here. So let me see here. So Andy, really good question. Low end. By the way, last night, Andy, you did. I follow you personally. You did a great call last night with that tornado, that went up there northwestern Arkansas. I was following your page and I was like, oh hey, this is showing a good amount of rotation. You're actually one of the reasons why I kind of broke into live coverage last night because I was like, oh, this is producing a good amount of rotation. Let's see what happens. So low end conditional tornado wind and hail risk can and have always produced significant damage. Treat any severe weather risk the same. I absolutely love that comment, Andy, here. So what you got?
Ryan had another good comment as well. Iowa had a low end risk, for severe weather.
Yeah.
Last night or
the other night.
Yeah. And it produced a state record wide tornado up there.
Yeah.
And that being said is because there was no damage reported, they rated it EF1. Obviously, from a chaser perspective, from a meteorological perspective, it could have been, I think, a lot higher threat or a lot higher of a tornado, a lot larger. But because it was in open fields, it didn't really, But again, they had one or two storms produce 13 tornadoes up there.
Yeah.
So again, all it takes is one or two storms. I mean, just for example, look at Arkansas. This year, all it takes is one or two storms, or in our case, several over the past, really last month or so.
Yeah.
Because really, we went through January, February 0. Mm-hmm. We had 0 tornadoes in January and February.
And then it took off in March. Yep.
From March to now, we've had 30. I want to say 34, 35?
30, last I saw was 33.
Okay, so we're right.
I haven't looked too much into that. So I know we're the 30s. I know that.
So our yearly average is 37.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're probably going to break that before we're done with the with the spring season.
Yeah.
But that being said, that's a record you don't really want to have.
Exactly.
Especially for our folks in Northeast Arkansas, and talking to Ryan Vaughn, as well. He thinks for the area of the Boot Hill, Missouri into Northeast Arkansas, this is a record for the spring in general.
Oh, wow.
Because they've had over 50 with Missouri and Arkansas combined.
Yeah.
So it's been a very active spring.
Yeah.
But that being said, every system is different. No system is the same.
Yep.
This one is not the same compared to the last.
Correct. So
that's one thing we always want to harp at.
I want to kind of address this one too from Deanna. She's one of our moderators. We have a map of counties on our Facebook page. This is very important. I'm going to post this probably first thing tomorrow morning here, and it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. But folks, we do this for a reason. It's not to attack anybody. It's that, hey, if there's a warning, you kind of have to know where you live, and you kind of have to know where you are, so that way you can seek shelter and stuff like that. So you got to make sure you can screenshot this right now, or you could just wait until, I'll have it first thing tomorrow morning for you guys to kind of have this photo. But this kind of breaks down the sections of the state along with the counties. I know there's a gray zone in that Garland, Hot Spring County area, but this just kind of gives you an overall basis of where it is across the state. You have your Northwest area, Southwest Arkansas, Central Arkansas, Southeast, Northeast, and North Central Arkansas here, guys. So very, very important that you know where you live, especially tomorrow. Just like I said, just putting extra emphasis on it because it's going to be Easter. Mm-hmm. And like I said before, we're going to have Ice and Sky tomorrow. Jamie, she's going to be, I think we have her sitting up probably west of Clinton tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that location is going to kind of vary a lot, especially what happens tomorrow morning and stuff like that. But I know we're targeting at least that area tomorrow, which is in North Central Arkansas, by the way. And then we're going to be keeping an eye on a couple of things here. So I love this question here from Haley. What is considered tornado season here? Now,
yes.
Every year is different. Right. Every year is different. You can get started as early as January. There's some years that you don't have a tornado season until late in the year. But I always see it as March through June. Yep. Here in Arkansas, you have two seasons, by the way, of severe weather and tornadoes. It's March through June, mm-hmm. and then you have, in some cases, September through December. Now, obviously, that's not including any tropical systems that we deal with. That's not including any, unforeseen stuff that happens in July and all that. But you have two different primary mm-hmm. severe weather seasons, March through June, September through December here in Arkansas. I hope that answered your question, Haley. So.
Yeah, and of course, that being said, we've had them in January and February.
Oh, yeah.
Again, really, July and August are really the 2 months out of the year that we don't really see any, mm-hmm. Unless it's a random tropical event. But most of our tropics happen late August, September, October, mm-hmm. so we don't really deal with that during that time frame. So typically, the summers are a chance to clean up and repair and get ready,
organized, and
for the next round.
Yeah. So Ryan, it does update the day one update to 8:00. The current day one today, like your Saturday's risk, that will update here in the next 10 minutes, and then tomorrow's risk, which will replace day one from today into your Easter Sunday, that won't update till 1:00 in the morning. So the one that's coming out here shortly is for tonight. But then you'll get one at midnight that will update for your Sunday, if that makes mm-hmm. sense here. So, are we in danger for another frost here in Mountain Home? Absolutely not. I think you're good to go. I think we're past that point. So we're good. We're good there. I don't. Yeah, he's upset about it, but I don't. Here's the deal. I will see this as a positive. Every time you get cold, you have to reset your pattern, which means you deal with more severe weather.
True.
So in this particular case, we need to just go straight into summer, let it be hot. That way we're not having to deal with severe weather. We're just all complaining about the heat at that point.
I'll take 80s. I'll take 80s, not hot.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Nobody likes hot around here.
I'll take it. Hey, if that means some quiet weather, I'll take it. Shoot. Give me 100 degrees and calm. I'll take it. So, in Sharp County, we've always considered ourselves, I know there's a lot of gray zones across the state because you can count one county in one section. We just like I said, we did a lot of research on it and came up with that map. And Jamie's comment, yeah, she's going to be moving around as needed tomorrow. But I think that north central Arkansas area will be the area to kind of keep an eye on as we move into tomorrow here, guys. So let me see. No May snow. Yeah. So let me see. So what about
we got snow in Fayetteville
in May 2013?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Why don't we do it again?
No,
okay.
Because your problem is, all right, so I'll give you guys a little bit of a tutorial here, okay? May 2013, we had that snow event in Northwest Arkansas. What happened in late May?
Okay.
What happened? No, answer the question. What happened?
I know, we had a tornado outbreak.
There you go. More. El Reno and more. That's exactly what happened.
I know.
So, we do not need cold air this time of the year because it never ends well. It's a temporary
I like
deal.
Aaron's idea better.
So
mid-July for snow.
Mid-July.
Yes, I like Aaron's idea better.
If you got snow going in mid-July, we got a bigger problem than trying to figure out where some severe weather's going if we're dealing with snow that late in the year. So let me see here. As I said, this is the time right now to ask questions. We're talking about tonight's threat going into your Easter Sunday as well.
We've started a comment. We have started
June snow.
We've started something in the comments.
All right, I'm gonna tell y'all this straightforward. All right, if we're dealing with snow in June and July, somebody needs to go check on Yellowstone because it's not just our problem here in Arkansas; it's a countrywide deal. So we don't need snow in the summer. Something's wrong here. So now,
good question by Andrew.
Yeah, we'll be transforming from pretty much from El Nino over to La Nina. This summer, you've already gotten into La Nina. I think you're transitioning into neutral.
Yes.
And I think there's a possibility that you could go into El Nino.
Yes.
Yep.
So right now, what you've done is you've transitioned out of a La Nina winter.
Mm-hmm.
We are now transitioning into neutral, which is why Arkansas has been so super active this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we are going from a La Nina to a El Nino, which right now, the NOAA does not have an El Nino watching effect. So we may just be going into a neutral pattern here for quite a little bit of time.
Man.
Which does mean the fall could be just as crazy as the spring has been.
Tropical season, too.
But right now, what we're looking at is that possibility. So basically, right now, we are still in a neutral pattern, which means that is expected to be the case throughout the summer into the fall.
Yeah.
So with that being said, tropics are expected to be active as well, but El Nino is not really anticipated, at least until we get towards possibly January, February of next year.
Yeah, and we'll have more information about that coming up in your summer outlook once we get into May here. But we've got folks that are asking, are just not joining in, by the way. This is your timing for tonight. I've got that circled up here. I'm thinking probably let's go for that 9 p.m. to 1 o'clock in the morning time frame for our folks up there in Western and Northwestern Arkansas. And yeah, Jasmine will like I said, that's a conversation that we'll have once we get. That's why I didn't want to jump on that too much because it's confusing. We'll have more on that once we do our seasonal outlook. We'll break all that down. Speaking of that, we're going to upload our spring outlook that we did back in February on YouTube. If you guys are interested in watching that when things kind of calm down. So to answer the questions here about tomorrow here, so let me go to here real quick. That's Independence County. There's your timing for tonight. Okay, so right now, not expecting any severe weather tonight. It is going to be tomorrow throughout the afternoon and into the evening. For those wondering, Independence County, that's Batesville. So you're not in a risk tonight, but you are in that risk for tomorrow here. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you have any outdoor plans tomorrow, Lee, for Easter across the area here, guys. So
I am noticing a very positive trend for tonight.
Okay.
I'm seeing a rain shield developing ahead of the severe weather in Texas and Oklahoma.
That's good. That's good.
So if that trend continues, we may lessen the severe threat tonight.
Yeah, but we'll still keep an eye on it because
last night was supposed to be the same thing, and then guess what happened?
Yeah. So,
but unfortunately, if tonight does go down, we will definitely have to watch tomorrow now.
Yeah. So Janet, first of all, I'm glad you're okay. I was wondering if you were gonna join in this live stream or not. She lives near the Tonytown area last night. That got the tornado warning, the tornado. They don't have any damage at their house, but they did have damage last night 2 miles to her east. So I'm glad that you're okay, Janet. I know last night was kind of a situation where it caught a lot of people off guard. We did talk about that isolated tornado threat up in northwestern Arkansas, but obviously with it being Eastern weekend, a lot of people are not on the page right now. They're kind of focusing on other things, which is totally respectful, I promise. But this is a situation tonight, similar to last night, Janet. Just keep an eye on everything. Obviously, if a warning gets issued, we will be here. Both of our weather studios, as a matter of fact, we're going to be up here in our main studio tonight.
Yep.
Both of them are set up to go live at any moment's notice for when we have those types of situations here. So let me see here. I'll be driving from Hot Springs to Arkadelphia from about 3 to 4 o'clock when I get off. I'm assuming this is going to be tomorrow, Kaylee. How will conditions be around that time? I will say if you have to travel, try to get it done earlier than 3 or 4 o'clock because that's when storms are going to be trying to roll in. If you have to travel around that time frame, just be careful. Obviously, if any warnings get issued, what I would do, Kaylee, is just kind of do a little scouting in your route. Be like, hey, is there any gas stations? There's grocery stores. Well, actually, I'll take that back. With it being Easter, there's a lot of grocery stores that are going to be closed tomorrow.
Yep.
So gas stations, any structures, stuff like that, just kind of scout your route if that makes sense for tomorrow. If when you're traveling from Hot Springs to the Arkadelphia area here, and like I said, I'm assuming that's 3-4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon here. So I fully agree. We do all need a break. In order for Arkansas to get a break, and I know a lot of people don't like the heat and humidity, you need that summer ridge to build in. That's the only way you're going to get rid of this severe weather threat here in Arkansas. You need that to build in. And the more times you get these cold shots and you get these cold fronts through here, it's just resetting the pattern over and over and over and over. And until that summer ridge really settles in, this is something that we're going to be dealing with, unfortunately.
And unfortunately, Cameron and I were talking about this earlier today. We may be talking about Father's Day or after, before that ridge further, really sets in. Now, that may not be the case, because most of the time we get to around Memorial Day, and, we are transitioning out west, to severe weather with more of our thunderstorm complex season overnight. So hopefully that's the case as we go into, as we lessen the severe risks. But that being said is, obviously, as we mentioned, we still have to pay attention through much of April, May, and into June as well.
Yeah. So Lisa's comment, with a possible tornado, is it better to get into a tiny toilet-only room with the bathroom that has a window in the larger room, or the other bathroom with no windows in the bathtub but it has an outside wall? That is a unique question. I'm going to say this, and this is going to be a little unorthodox if I got that word right. I would say in that particular situation, you want to be in an area that does not have any windows. Now, I understand the outside wall will be an issue, but it also depends on where that outside wall is in relation to potential paths and all that, because, you can't really forecast where it's going to hit your house. I mean, it just depends. But the bathroom with no windows is going to be your best shot in that particular situation. Because in any situation, you don't want to be anywhere near a window. That's just how it is. Even if you're on the outside wall, that protection will help you a lot better compared to having a window and all that. But I want to stress this too. Like I said, it's not a knock for anybody that's asking those types of questions. Don't ignore the damaging wind and hail threat either, because there is a potential tomorrow, especially with the instability, etc. You could be dealing with a rather large hail threat and a wind threat. But I will say this. It is a lot easier to prepare for wind and hail than it is for tornadoes. So I will say that.
Obviously, we also talk about damaging winds. Damaging winds do cause damage over a larger area. Especially, as we transition, later into May, we do deal with more of those damaging wind risks. So that's something, to be prepared for, is over a larger area. Again, this is why we say take damaging wind risk and severe thunderstorm warnings as seriously as you do a tornado warning, because at any point in time, you could be hit with those 70, 80, 90 mile an hour winds that can do, just as much damage as a tornado. But again, instead of a small little, Cameron, 200 or 300 foot wide path, you're talking literally, several miles, or in some instances, 100 miles. Especially when you deal with those really high in advance, like they get in the planes.
Yep.
So it's just one of those things, that obviously, we preach time and time again. Another good thing is, I know we preach pillows, blankets, stuff like that. Couch cushions are another good thing to have because at least you can hold on to those. Stuff that's easy to get to and put on top of you.
Yeah. So I saw somebody ask, and we're going to be on here. Is 8:30 cool with you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll be on here at about 8:30 answering questions, stuff like that. We had somebody ask about simulated radar. I think it was Ryan. Also, Janet, thank you. We put a shelter in the floor on our garage. Speaking of shelters, by the way, quick shout out to Tornado Shelter Systems. They've been doing. I told Jimmy the other day. I said, man, I am so sorry. We made that partnership in March, and it's just been absolutely crazy since then. So those guys, if one of my guys can get that in the comments, that'd be awesome. Check those guys out for Tornado Shelters. They do an amazing job. They have below ground and above ground storm shelters across the area here. Mm-hmm. So, Ryan, I'm going to get to you. Let me see if I can get this up on our screen.
Something exciting, Cameron, because,
yeah.
By this time next week, we'll...
Yeah, Robert, I was going to say, I saw Robert's comment on here. If you want to talk a little bit more about that.
So, this time next week, we'll be having... our weather camera project up and going. Shout out to Joint Forces Group up there, Silent Spring, the city of El Dorado, and the University of Arkansas Phillips Community College as well, down in Helena and Stuttgart.
Yep.
We will have 4 weather cameras up and going across parts of the state here a week from now. So the next weather event we get, we hope there's not another one this year, but the next one we get, we will have those weather cameras up and going in those parts of the state, especially in northwest Arkansas where it seems like things are transitioning to. Robert's camera will come in very good use up there.
In northwestern Arkansas. Yes,
El Dorado, when we get to tropical season, is going to come in very good use. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, our Delta threats as well. Regardless, this project is going to change the way we do weather coverage here in Arkansas. We're going to have our chaser on the ground. We're going to have coverage here. We're going to have weather we're going to have so many different options to view these storms now and to keep you safe.
Yep.
And we are very excited about it. Just another way we are working overtime to keep you ahead of the storm. Going forward, Cam.
Yep. So I'm going to get back to Ryan's comment about seeing the simulated radar here. So I don't like using model data, but there is some good news I want to point out. Earlier on, it looked like that we would have some supercells that would fire off in eastern Oklahoma and move through Arkansas. That no longer looks to be the case per this model data. Now, keep in mind, this is model data that you're looking at, so don't take this and run with it. But what looks like what's going on now is you have a line of storms that's going to develop out here in eastern Oklahoma, and this will move into Arkansas, well, at least attempt to move to Arkansas later on tonight. We're going to hang tight up here for at least about, I'd say, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, see where we are. This would be I got a nice pin here. This would be what's called a double-edged sword. Tonight, you don't have to deal with severe weather if this happens. Up there in northwestern Arkansas, you get a break. But the problem is, tomorrow, that fades away, and there's a nice boundary that gets laid out right through here. Mm-hmm. And that's where you're going to have severe weather issues as we move into tomorrow. So as you can see, we get towards lunch tomorrow, how your radar just clears. And that's what we do not want to see as we move into tomorrow here, guys. This is why we're putting some extra urgency on the potential of seeing severe weather as we move into your Easter Sunday here.
I tell you my concern, Cameron, I noticed on there as well those gravity waves across southwest Arkansas.
Yes, sir.
That's an indication of our data starting to indicate a very ripe atmosphere. It's a similar thing to what we've seen with more of our robust events this season already. If this trend holds, I'm also noticing data bringing that low further south as well.
Too, yeah.
If this trend holds, don't be shocked to see everything brought south.
Yeah.
With the morning update. So again, that being said, Easter Sunday. Yes, we know the risk is there for tonight, but Easter Sunday, is going to be one.
I will say this in terms of tonight, your threat is going down, but it's not zero. So just make sure if you're going to get sleep tonight in Northwest Arkansas, this would be a situation that I would just leave my phone on. If you have a weather radio, that's great. Speaking of weather radios, we do have a Arkansas Weather Watchers merchandise site. Now, if one of my guys can get that in the comments, I'll show you guys that site coming up here in just a little bit. But, there'd be a situation you leave your weather radio on tonight, or you leave your phone on just to be on the safe side up there in Northwest Arkansas.
Yep.
But I am starting to get very concerned about tomorrow here. Now, one more thing before we get to additional questions. I want to talk to you guys about this product because you're going to see this a lot on social media here. Okay, you're gonna see this. I want to stress this right now, folks. Okay, we deal with this with every severe weather event. This does not mean that if you're in that purple zone, your house is going to get hit by a tornado or anything like that. This just shows the environment that is in place for the potential of seeing tornadoes. Now, like I said, keep in mind, this is not a guarantee that, oh, hey, I'm going to see a tornado here or I'm going to see a tornado there. That's not a guarantee whatsoever. But this is just a visual on what could potentially, what the environment could look like tomorrow. Now, keep in mind, this was the earlier run, the 18Z of the HRRR. If you go to a different model, the NAM, obviously is a little bit more of a robust threat here in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. So, yes, the tornado threat is there. Could the tornado threat increase? I'd say, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on it. But this is not a situation where every single person in Arkansas is going to get hit by a tornado. It's not going to be like that at all. But tomorrow, what I would do is I would just keep an eye, not only just tornadoes here, okay?
Yep.
Damaging winds and hail. I don't know why damaging winds and hail are so ignored, but it needs to be a priority, especially tomorrow for folks that have stuff outside. Mm-hmm. So please keep that in mind. But you're going to see this map thrown on social media a lot. We don't post it because we don't like getting people all panicky and throwing anxiety through the roof and everything like that. Yep. But we want to tell you that the tornado threat is there, damaging wind threat is there, and the hail threat is there for tomorrow. If you have any outdoor plans, just be prepared for some strong to severe thunderstorms as we move into your Easter Sunday here, guys. So I'm going to go back over to our graphic system. And this is for tonight's timing, and then I'm going to have tomorrow's timing on there as well here, guys. So if you want to address that comment, Derek, that's from El Dorado, actually. Thanks, guys. You guys are so appreciated. Getting a little bit nervous in El Dorado. Obviously, the storm anxiety is real. If you want to talk more about that.
I mean, storm anxiety this year has been absolutely, fully expected.
Yeah.
We do actually have a spot on our Discord for the folks with storm anxiety. That being said, again, the biggest thing is, and the model's always been, be prepared and not scared.
Yep.
But again, obviously, we've seen 33 tornadoes this year. Mm-hmm. We've had over 170 tornado warnings this year. Arkansas leads the nation in tornado warnings. This year. We're number one in something.
Number one Arkansas.
We can't be number one in baseball. So.
Or football.
But, so that being said, we lead the country in that. We lead the country in severe weather, this season. So that being said, obviously not tornado count, but tornado warnings. So again, those sirens have been blaring a lot. Those phones have been going off a lot.
Yeah.
This spring. And that's spring in Arkansas, folks. It's what we deal with every single year. It's nothing new to the state. Some years are worse than others.
This one by far has been the worst.
This one has by far been
the worst.
Been the worst since AWW has been an organization. Mm-hmm. I think the next closest would be 2011. Probably 2014 would be the second closest.
Third. I'd say third.
Third.
Yeah, because 2011 was pretty active. Then 2014.
Yep.
This one's been.
I would say this one, falls in that 97, 99, 2011 category.
Yeah.
Right now. Again, we still have May to go, so we're far from over. But the biggest thing is that, that's why we're here to cover all 75 counties. That's why we're here to cover that little town like 56, Arkansas, that got hit by the strongest tornado since Mayflower and Bologna. That's why we were covering wind. That's why we were covering small town Arkansas, wind, because we are here for those small towns and the big cities as well.
Yeah.
But again, when the small towns get hit, we're going to be there first to make sure you are covered. Jamie's been right there in the thick of it, all on the ground in those small towns. We've had, we've been live for 5 different storms at one time. But the biggest thing is, biggest way with storm anxiety is just breathe. We just have to breathe and get through it together.
Yep.
That is going to be the biggest thing. And so, again, we have, what, Cam? 6 more weeks to go? 5, 6 more weeks to go?
Yeah.
So again, our hope is that it goes quietly into the night. Realistically, we're not done yet.
Yep.
So, we're going to keep safe regardless. The biggest thing is when it comes to anxiety, just breathe, trust us, and have a plan of action. By now, you should already have that plan of action. But, and another thing is I noticed, know your counties as well. Know your counties to your west and to your south. That's going to be key for any severe event. Know your counties to your west, know your counties to your south. That's where most of our severe weather comes from, is from the western counties and the southern counties. Most storms travel either west to east or southwest to northeast. Very rarely do you get them travel east to west. We'll deal with that when we get to hurricanes. But, for now, that's what you get to deal with is know your counties west and south. And I think we have a map that we, with the counties on it, that we can deal with as well.
Yeah. So, like Jamie was asking, once the system rolls through tomorrow, will be done? So this is going to be a one and done. Once tomorrow goes through, once you have that line of storms move through, it's going to be a one and done deal. It won't be a situation where, unless we have supercells ahead of the line itself, this is just going to be a one and done, and that's going to be it for tomorrow. Also, speaking of knowing your counties, we do have that merchandise store if you guys want to check that out. If you guys would like that on a shirt, let me know and we can get that arranged. Because I think that it's not. I wasn't trying to make that as a joke. I think that would help out a lot of people, especially if they see that, on the shirt, stuff like that, and gets the awareness out about knowing your counties.
Well, somebody was saying because that's our number one phrase.
Yeah, that's our number one phrase.
Know your counties.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying that would be nice to have on a shirt.
Yeah.
And so
Yep. So let me just go. I'm just going through the comments real quickly, guys. We got about 15 more minutes, and we're gonna be good. Lee, check out our merchandise website. We do have weather radios on sale. 20% off if you need that information here, guys. So somebody's already got that. So an area for the best area for the worst case scenario for tomorrow here. So Potter, I can't do that, and the only reason why is because if I do that, everybody else outside of that circle is going to let their guard down tomorrow.
Yep.
And tomorrow's a situation that I need every single person to have their awareness up tomorrow, regardless if it's a tornado or if it's damaging winds or it's hail. I cannot do that tomorrow.
Tomorrow is a 75 county risk area. Tomorrow, starting as early as noon.
Yep.
And ending as late as 2 a.m.
Yep.
But the main time frame is going to be what you see on your screen.
Yep.
So again, that being said, it is an all 75 county risk tomorrow. Therefore, there's no highly favored area. There's no lesser favored area. Tomorrow is going to be all 75 county. One thing y'all will learn about us is that we don't believe in highly favored areas, lesser favored areas, because the thing is, severe weather is a life-threatening risk no matter where you're at.
Yep.
Because you can be in a marginal risk, get struck by lightning. You can be in a moderate risk and have a flash flood.
Yep.
Let's just face it. Just remember, look what happened just a couple weeks ago. It's just one of those things that we have to watch for, as we go into the, overnight hours, into the daytime hours tomorrow. To see exactly how this is going to go.
Yep.
Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, so it's not here in Arkansas.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the newest update from Storm Prediction Center. That would be for near the Red River. It's a 10% hatch for the tornado risk for tonight. Like I said, to repeat, it's not in Arkansas, but that would be a situation that we would have to watch very closely. Someone said a fridge magnet, bumper stickers with that as well. Yeah, I can get that arranged. Probably as early as tonight. I can get that arranged for you guys and have that on the site by tomorrow here. So, I would much rather not be number one in anything, I know. So, let me see here. Coming from California, you got a weather report that lasted 60 seconds. Who knew weather would be so complicated? Yeah, Lauren, it's been It's been crazy. So, is there bus potential? James, I don't know if you're talking about tonight, tomorrow, etc. Yes, there's always bus potential in any kind of situation. That's how it is. No severe weather, no matter how bad it is, even if it's a high risk, there's always some sort of bus potential with this. Now, does that mean let your guard down tomorrow or anything like that? I want everybody's guard to be up tomorrow. And I worry because there's not a lot of people tuning into the live stream right now on Facebook. You know, they're focusing on other things, and I really need them to be focused on the weather tomorrow with the Easter stuff because you have severe weather on a holiday. So yes, that is a possibility, James, but we're going to assume that the severe threat is going to happen. If it doesn't happen, that's awesome, especially with being Easter. I'd rather not be sitting here on Easter talking about tornado warnings or any other day. But, you know, there is that potential as we move into your Sunday here, guys. Okay.
The biggest thing is that tomorrow morning, you know, you're safe for church and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, again, a lot of your churches will be having either Easter breakfast or Easter lunch, potlucks. We live in the South, it happens because potlucks are a thing, especially churches in the South. So that being said, during that lunchtime frame, start to be on guard, but don't cancel your plans. From 2 p.m. on is when you need to be on guard, but again, don't cancel your plans because just stay weather aware.
Yep.
The biggest thing is tomorrow morning you're fine. Tomorrow afternoon, midday, start paying attention. Tomorrow afternoon into the evening is when you need to be on guard for rapidly changing weather conditions.
So, just kind of taking a look at everything right now here. I think, Ashley, I saw your comment. If timing changes for Central Arkansas between now and then, do you think it'd be a little earlier or it'd be later? I worry, Ashley, about this being a little later. We'll have to wait and see how the storm system progresses out west. I worry about it being just a touch later than 5 to 6 o'clock. Now, obviously, Jamie, I know you're listening to this. That does not affect your timing because I know you're going to be chasing and stuff. But I worry that there could be a little bit of a delay. I've noticed that with these past events that everything has been delayed by like an hour or two. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, we'll have an update on timing first thing tomorrow morning, and everything like that. So that's something that we'll have to, you know, we'll keep an eye with data. But yeah, I think it'd be more of it may be later than it would be earlier. It just depends on how fast this system kind of moves away from Arkansas. And I did see that, by the way. And I kind of want to make a quick PSA about this too. If you know a business, and we work with any business here in Arkansas, regardless of budget, that is interested in that weather camera project, please send us an email. We are trying to get those weather cameras in all 75 counties across the state of Arkansas. Quick shout out El Dorado. Robert, he's the public works director down there. Amazing guy. He did amazing. I talked to him. He was really wanting to get that for El Dorado. We're willing to work with anybody across the state in terms of getting those cameras up and going here. So if you know anybody, just send them our way.
I know we're in talks with Cave City. I know we're in talks with Walnut Ridge, Marion County, Crossett, and Hamburg, Lafayette County as well. So I know there is potential there to come. Again, our goal is throughout the summertime to start approaching a lot of our county seats. About putting these up. So again, it's going to be something that is going to benefit this state exponentially. Especially as we go into the fall season. So again, shout out to Brett and Drew at Hascams, for letting us, start this project in Arkansas and helping us get those out and get them up across the state.
Yeah. So Renee, I'm gonna address your comment because I know storm anxiety is up right now. Our timing maps is from our forecast team. It's just from us. We follow SBC, but we also have our own opinions on everything. We've looked at data. We've looked at everything. Right now, it looks like northwestern Arkansas has the better shot of seeing these storms as we move into the night. As a matter of fact, if you go data tonight, you don't see anything down there in southwestern Arkansas. So we're going to watch it. We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, these timing maps, and I'm stressing this right now, folks, it is not a 100% science deal, okay? There's always going to be, with any graphics, any weather graphics, there's always going to be human error. No matter how many times we tweak it, no matter how many times we put new updates on it, stuff like that, there's always going to be human error with those graphics. I want to stress that. So those timing maps, yes, we are further north than what SBC has right now. That doesn't mean we're not watching. I just think the best shot of seeing storms is going to be from western into northwestern Arkansas. Obviously, if we get to a situation or something moving towards your area, we'll tweak it, but there's always going to be human error with us because we're not robots. We're human at the end of the day. So just keep that in mind across the area. Yeah, I see that risk for tonight. It's for down there in southwest Arkansas.
Shifted northwest.
Northwest.
From where it was earlier.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that it has shifted much northwest, and your tornado risk has shifted basically almost to the Arkansas border compared to where it was.
Yeah.
Because originally it was for much of western and central Arkansas, and now it's shifted all the way to the Arkansas border. So, that being said, now is when we really want to start paying attention for tomorrow. We've seen this before, where the risk for the day one shift west, well, that means your day two risk does tend to go up a little bit. But again, it's something that we're going to have updates on throughout the morning tomorrow. And then, of course, obviously, will be full-fledged coverage all afternoon and all night tomorrow night as needed for the state.
Yeah, I love Anna's comment as well. All watches and warnings come from the National Weather Service. We don't control those. We love y'all to death. I'm glad y'all have that faith in us. But we don't have the National Weather Service's job. What they put out is what we report. That's all we do. So the biggest threat tomorrow, Brianna, I'm going to be honest with you. It's a combination of damaging winds and tornadoes tomorrow. Obviously, the large hail threat is there as well. I'm getting a little bit more worried about the tornado threat tomorrow compared to what I was earlier because things are starting to slow down. You're starting to get a better environment. So the tornado threat is starting to increase. Obviously, that does not mean that, if I don't get a tornado, there's no severe weather. No, that's not the case at all. Damaging winds and hail will still be a problem, and lightning is going to be a problem as well. I'm stressing this right now because it's Easter Sunday. If it's like an Easter Sunday like it was when I was growing up in El Dorado, you're cooking outside. You got stuff going on tomorrow. So I'm worried that tomorrow a lot of people are not going to be paying attention to the weather because what's going on, and then boom. So make sure tomorrow morning you're following along with the page, you're staying weather aware while still doing your Easter activities across the area here, guys. Okay, so
we will be fully staffed tomorrow, so don't worry about that.
Yep.
I'll be here. Cameron will be here. We are going to have a staff ready to go. We may be coming in at different times throughout the day tomorrow because of Easter. But when the rough gets going, we're all going to be here ready to go. To keep you ahead of the storm. Again, I want to reiterate this. No two events are alike.
Yep.
We're not expecting a similar event to what we had 2 weeks ago. We're not expecting a similar event to what we had March 14th. But that being said, I think I've said this multiple times this spring already. That being said, the risk is there. The ceiling tomorrow is high.
Yeah.
However, what are the caveats that are going to prevent it from getting to that ceiling?
Yeah, the storm system speeds up. If your cold front speeds up, if you get a lot of cloud cover that don't break, you get a cap that doesn't break, stuff like that. There's a lot of questions that goes into tomorrow's setup. So it's not like how it was 2 weeks ago where we were dealing with these tornado outbreaks here in Arkansas. Now, that doesn't mean that tomorrow won't do anything. That just means that when you're comparing those two side by side, 2 weeks ago was a lot more volatile than tomorrow is, but that doesn't mean tomorrow you won't see anything, if that makes sense.
Yep, I want you to look in the bottom right-hand corner of that screen.
Yeah.
It is April the 19th. It is 75 degrees at 8:30 at night.
Yep.
That right there, folks, all you got to see
Yep.
is the atmosphere, the moisture's already there.
Yep.
Your moisture is there, your system is there. Your instability is going to be there. Your shear is going to be there. Your wind energy is going to be there. Everything's going to be in place for a severe weather event tomorrow. The only question is going to be is how significant does it get? That will be the $1 million question as we go into the daytime hours tomorrow.
Yep. So I will say this, and I'll draw this out just based off what I've seen so far. If there were to be a heightened tornado threat tomorrow, and I use that very loosely because somebody's going to see this, they're going to be outside the circle and be like, oh, well, I don't have anything going on tomorrow. That's not the case. I think it's going to be in this particular area tomorrow. I think that's going to be your best shot up here, closer to the low, where your shear and your instability kind of meet. I think this area up here in North Arkansas will have to be watched. And unfortunately, once again, you guys are under the gun for the millionth time up here in northern Arkansas. So we'll have to keep an eye on it here. But that's the area that I would be kind of watching very closely, especially over the next couple of updates from the Storm Prediction Center here. So I think we're getting close to 8:30. I think that's pretty much it, guys. Derek, unless you got something that you need to.
I mean, biggest thing is, shout out, to our team, Jamie. Thank you for your help on this stream again, as well. Our moderators. Jamie is going to be out there tomorrow in the storms. Then of course, obviously, we're going to be live on air as well. So again, biggest thing is just pay attention to warnings as they get issued. We're going to be here throughout the day tomorrow. We're going to have updates. What, Cameron?
Probably starting as always 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. 9 a.m.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And again, we're not forgetting tonight. I want to stress that we are not forgetting tonight.
Yeah.
But
there you go.
There's
your timing for tonight.
That being said, tonight's risk is kind of a little bit downtrending, and tomorrow's risk is kind of uptrending.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it here. So from Paris, this is probably one of the last questions we'll answer. I can't say yes or no to that. I can't, because the problem is if you say no, then you get it, and if you say yes and it doesn't happen, then you get called a hyper. So I cannot answer that question. We can't, because it's a situation that it's not just tornadoes tomorrow, folks. I'm stressing this. Stop ignoring damaging winds and hail. Just stop ignoring it, because it's there. It happens. You're going to be, and I'll say this, moving forward into May, into June, into July, you're going to be dealing with wind and hail a lot more than you ever will with tornadoes the later you get into the year. So you got to treat all severe weather modes the same. Don't expect this to be just a tornado event and that's it. There's damaging winds and there's hail, and I worry about the lightning potential. Folks, I'm really concerned. A lot of people are just ignoring this right now, and especially if they're not in a tornado risk. I want you guys to be aware tomorrow because it's Easter.
We're going to be heightened. We're going to be heightened tomorrow watching these storms.
Yeah.
We're going to have extra eyes on every rotation, on every little spin up, because tomorrow's going to be one of those days where they're going to be moving 40 to 50 miles per hour tomorrow.
Correct.
So we're going to be having to watch these storms very closely, especially downstream, for your town. So again, just pay attention to every warning tonight and tomorrow.
Yep.
And we are going to be here to keep you weather aware.
Yeah. So I love that comment from Heidi. Perfect example, damaging winds was this past event in Central Arkansas. Yeah. Yep. Where you had 80 mile per hour winds move through. I mean, Central Arkansas literally got tore up with that last event here. And that was just damaging winds. It wasn't even a tornado. It was just straight line winds. So I think tomorrow will be a combination of both damaging winds, the damaging wind threat, and the tornado threat that you have to keep an eye on as you move into tomorrow. Yep. Obviously, the health threat's going to be there as well. I'm really curious to see what SBC does at midnight.
Me too.
We'll keep an eye and see what they end up doing with that risk for tomorrow. But yeah, damaging winds is that last event. There you go. Yeah, Potter. Yep. That last event was a nightmare. I mean, we were here at the Weather Center. We were doing live coverage during that. And it wasn't even a tornado. It was just straight up 80 mile per hour winds that came through. So we got to watch that damaging wind threat tomorrow as well here, guys. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. Derek, unless you've got something you need to add. I think that's...
Hopefully we don't have to go live overnight. But if we do, we're going to be here.
Yep.
Keeping you updated right here on your source
for all things
Arkansas weather.